The challenge of ages. The crystal spire arena hung like a shard of starlight against the violet skies of Nexus Prime, its crystalline surfaces refracting the light of 3 setting suns. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of her transport ship, her hand resting on the hilt of Nova's Edge, the last blade forged from Earth's legendary meteorite steel. "Final approach to Docking Bay 7, announced the ship's eye. "Commander, the Crystalline Empire's delegation awaits your arrival." Sarah's grip tightened on the sword's hilt. 6 months ago, the Empire had appeared in Earth's orbit with an ultimatum disguised as an invitation. Send your greatest bladesmaster to compete in the Millennial Tournament, or accept status as a protectorate world. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. "Display tournament parameters," Sarah commanded. A holographic screen materialized before her, showing the profiles of the other competitors. Beings from 1,000 worlds, each a master of their art, each wielding weapons that defied human understanding. Some fought with blades of pure energy, others with weapons that could bend space itself. And here she stood, with a sword forged from metal that had fallen from the stars. The docking sequence initiated with a gentle shudder. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as maintenance drones swarmed around the ship, their crystalline bodies pulsing with internal light. The Empire's technology made Earth's greatest achievements look like children's toys, yet they still maintained this ancient tradition of blade combat. "Commander Chen," a resonant voice echoed through the ship's comm system. "I am Keeper Thalix. Welcome to the Crystal Spire." Sarah turned from the viewport to face the holographic projection of her host. The Keeper's form was typical of the Crystalline Empire's ruling class, a humanoid shape composed of living crystal, internal lights pulsing in complex patterns that served as both language and emotional indicators. "The honor is mine, Keeper," Sarah replied, bowing slightly. "Though I admit, I'm curious why the Empire maintains these blade tournaments when your technology has advanced so far beyond physical combat." The Keeper's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. "Some traditions transcend technological advancement, Commander. The blade arts speak to something deeper than mere combat. They reveal the true nature of those who practice them." Sarah had heard similar philosophical statements throughout her career, but something in the Keeper's tone suggested deeper meaning. Before she could probe further, the docking procedure completed with a soft chime. "Your first match begins in 3 hours, Thalix announced. "Your quarters have been prepared according to Earth environmental standards. I suggest you rest and prepare. Your opponent today is formidable." The hologram flickered out, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts and the weight of Nova's Edge at her hip. She had studied the tournament's history during her journey. Not a single representative from Earth had ever advanced past the first round. The Empire's message was clear. They expected the same outcome this time. As she made her way through the docking tube, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Empire had existed for millennia, spreading their influence across the galaxy through these tournaments. They had mastered technologies that seemed like magic, created weapons that could shatter planets, and yet they still held to these ancient contests of blade against blade. They were about to learn why humans had survived every catastrophe their world had thrown at them. Why Earth's martial arts had evolved not through technological enhancement, but through the relentless refinement of mind, body, and spirit. The Crystal Spire's internal architecture seemed to defy physics, with walkways that floated in space and walls that shifted like liquid glass. Sarah followed the pulsing light path that would lead to her quarters, aware of the countless eyes watching her progress. Other competitors, their forms ranging from humanoid to utterly alien, observed her passage with varying degrees of interest or dismissal. Let them watch, she thought. Let them underestimate the human with the primitive metal sword. Tomorrow, they would learn what Earth's greatest bladesmaster could do. In her quarters, Sarah began her preparation ritual. Nova's Edge lay before her on a floating crystal platform, its meteorite steel gleaming with an inner light that seemed to respond to her presence. The sword was more than just a weapon. It was Earth's legacy, forged from metal that had journeyed across the stars to reach their world. As she meditated, Sarah reflected on the weight of her mission. This wasn't just about proving human worth to the Empire. It was about showing the galaxy that advancement didn't always mean abandoning the old ways, that sometimes the simplest truths were the most powerful. The 3-hour mark approached, and Sarah rose from her meditation. Through the crystal walls of her quarters, she could see the arena below, already filling with spectators from across the galaxy. The air seemed to vibrate with anticipation. "Commander Chen," the arena's AI announced, "your presence is requested in the preparation chamber. Your opponent awaits." Sarah lifted Nova's edge, feeling the familiar connection as her hand wrapped around the hilt. Whatever technological marvels her opponent wielded, whatever ancient powers the Empire possessed, she carried with her the spirit of every human warrior who had ever raised a blade in defense of their people. The games were about to begin, and Earth's chapter in the tournament's history was about to change forever. Echoes of ancient steel. The preparation chamber pulsed with crystalline light as Sarah faced her first opponent. High Archon Zyrix towered over her, his body a masterwork of biomechanical enhancement and crystalline technology. Where Sarah wore simple combat fatigues, he was encased in armor that seemed to bend light itself around him. "A metal blade," Zyrix observed, his voice resonating through multiple harmonic frequencies. How quaint. The Empire expected Earth to at least attempt to modernize its weapons for this tournament. Sarah maintained her calm, years of training keeping her breathing steady. "We believe in mastering our tools, not constantly replacing them." The chamber's walls shifted, displaying holographic readouts of their vital signs. Sarah noticed something odd about Zyrix's readings. They seemed to fluctuate in patterns that didn't match any known life form she had studied. "Your first time seeing quantum life signs?" Zyrix asked, noticing her attention. "The Empire's evolution has long since transcended simple biological processes. We exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional states. Yet you still hold these tournaments," Sarah replied. "You still test yourselves with blade against blade." Zyrix's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. "The blade arts are more than mere combat, human. They are a key to understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself, something your species is far too young to comprehend." The chamber's AI interrupted their conversation. "Competitors, enter your combat stances. The match begins in 30 seconds." Sarah drew Nova's edge, its meteorite steel catching the light with an almost liquid shimmer. Across from her, Zyrix manifested his weapon, a blade of pure quantum energy that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. "A curious weapon you carry," Zyrix noted, his head tilting slightly. "That metal. It resonates strangely with the quantum field. Where did you say it came from?" "I didn't," Sarah replied, settling into her stance. The sword felt alive in her hands, almost humming with anticipation. The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the vast arena beyond. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy watched in anticipation. Sarah could hear the commentary being broadcast in multiple languages. High Archon Zyrix, undefeated in 17 sectors, faces Earth's Commander Chen. Betting odds are currently 10,000 to 1 against the human competitor. "Match begin," the AI announced. Zyrix moved with impossible speed, his quantum blade creating afterimages as it sliced through multiple dimensions at once. But Sarah had trained for this moment her entire life. Nova's edge met the quantum blade with a sound that defied physics, a pure, crystalline note that rang through the arena. The crowd fell silent. Zyrix's attack halted mid-strike. "Impossible," he whispered. "That blade. It's channeling quantum resonance. No primitive metal should be capable of." Sarah pressed her advantage, flowing through the forms that had been passed down through generations of Earth's blade masters. Each strike seemed to sing, Nova's edge leaving trails of light in its wake that matched the patterns of Zyrix's quantum weapon. "You begin to understand." Keeper Thelix's voice echoed through the arena. "Why we chose Earth. Why we watched your people for so long." Sarah barely registered the words, lost in the dance of combat. But something was happening to Nova's edge. With each clash against the quantum blade, patterns of light began to emerge along its length, patterns that matched the crystalline architecture of the arena itself. Xerxes' attacks became more desperate, his perfect form giving way to increasingly erratic strikes. The prophecy was supposed to be metaphorical, he snarled. A primitive species couldn't possibly. Sarah's blade sang as she executed a perfect counterstrike, a move that had won her Earth's championship. But this time, something was different. Nova's edge cut through not just space, but seemingly through reality itself. A gap opened in the air where the blade passed, showing glimpses of other dimensions. The arena erupted in chaos. Keeper Thalix's voice boomed above the tumult. The resonance has begun. After 10,000 years, the true tournament can finally commence. Xerxes backed away, his crystalline form flickering between dimensional states. You don't understand what you've done, human, what you've started. But Sarah did understand somehow. Nova's edge thrummed in her hands, and knowledge flowed through her consciousness. Knowledge of why the Empire really maintained these tournaments, of what they had been searching for all these millennia. They hadn't been testing Earth's worth as a potential protectorate. They had been waiting for someone to awaken the power that lay dormant in certain forms of stellar metal, the same metal that had fallen to Earth as a meteorite generations ago. The second round begins in 1 hour, the AI announced as Xerxes' form finally stabilized. Dimensional stabilizers are now in effect throughout the arena. Sarah looked down at Nova's edge, its surface now covered in flowing patterns of light that pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. The weapon had changed, or perhaps it had simply revealed its true nature. Either way, she knew the real tournament was just beginning, and somewhere in the depths of the crystal spire, ancient machinery that had waited 10,000 years began to hum to life. Secrets of the Void. In the hour between matches, Sarah sat in her meditation chamber. Nova's edge laid across her knees, its surface still rippling with quantum patterns. The sword felt different now, not just a weapon, but a key to understanding something vast and ancient. Your performance exceeded our highest projections, Keeper Thalix said, his crystalline form materializing in the chamber. Though I suspect you have questions. Sarah studied the patterns flowing across her blade. The meteorite that fell to Earth. You guided it there, didn't you? This whole tournament, the threat of making Earth a protectorate, it was all orchestrated. Felix's internal lights pulsed in complex sequences. 10,000 years ago, our civilization faced a choice. We had mastered quantum mechanics, bent reality to our will, evolved beyond biological constraints. But we discovered something in the void between dimensions, something that threatened not just our empire, but all of reality itself. The chamber's walls shifted, displaying images of ancient battles. Sarah saw crystalline warriors wielding blades that looked remarkably similar to Nova's edge, fighting against shadows that seemed to devour light itself. We couldn't defeat them, Felix continued. Not with all our technology, not with all our mastery of quantum physics, but we discovered a solution, or rather, a prophecy. Certain forms of stellar metal, when forged by species who hadn't yet evolved beyond their connection to the physical realm, could resonate with both quantum and void energies. Sarah's next match alert chimed, but Thalix raised a hand. Your opponent can wait. This is more important. We seeded these meteorites across thousands of worlds, watching, waiting for a species that could forge them correctly and master their use through pure physical discipline rather than technological enhancement. Earth wasn't the only world you tested, Sarah realized. Just the first to succeed. The first in 10,000 years, Felix corrected. Your people's stubborn insistence on mastering primitive weapons, your dedication to ancient martial arts, even as you developed spaceflight. These weren't limitations. They were precisely what we needed. The chamber door slid open, revealing the arena beyond. But this time, it looked different. The quantum patterns Sarah could now perceive showed her something else. The arena wasn't just a sporting venue. It was an enormous machine. Every blade strike, every resonance pattern created by combat was being collected and channeled. Your next opponent is no ordinary warrior, Felix warned. The void knows we are close. It has sent its own champion. The resonance patterns you awakened in your first match, they were just the beginning. Be ready for. The arena lights flickered, and a chill swept through the chamber. Sarah felt Nova's edge grow cold in her hands. Through the doorway, she could see her opponent materializing, a figure that seemed to be made of living darkness, wielding a blade that absorbed all light around it. "They're here," Felix whispered, his crystalline form dimming. "The Void Hunters, the very beings we've spent 10 millennia preparing to fight. Your next match isn't just for Earth's independence, Commander Chen. It's for the survival of all reality." Sarah stood, Nova's edge humming with newfound power. The quantum patterns along its length began to shift, forming configurations she somehow instinctively understood. The sword wasn't just channeling energy. It was teaching her, showing her forms and techniques that bridged the gap between physical combat and quantum manipulation. "Before you face it," Felix said quickly, "there's something else you must know. The prophecy speaks of a price, the power needed to seal the void rifts it requires." The arena klaxon sounded, cutting him off. Sarah stepped through the doorway, into a battle that would decide far more than a simple tournament victory. Above her, the quantum patterns in the arena's crystalline structure began to pulse in sync with her blade. The Void Hunter raised its darkness blade in salute. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "At last, O worthy vessel, your victory over Zurich's proved what we have long suspected. Humans have a unique gift. Join us, Commander Chen. Help us unmake the barriers between dimensions. Your blade's power cold." "Save your breath," Sarah interrupted, settling into her stance. Nova's edge sang in her hands, its quantum patterns now burning so brightly they cast shadows even in the arena's brilliant light. "I spent my whole life mastering the blade arts for one simple reason: to protect what matters. Earth, the Empire, even reality itself. I won't let you unmake any of it." The Void Hunter's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Such conviction. But do you even understand what that blade truly is? What it will cost you to use its full power?" Sarah smiled. "I guess we're both about to find out." The arena-eye's voice echoed through the space. "Final match of the quantum resonance trials begins in 3, 2, 1. Nova's edge blazed with inner light as Sarah charged forward, ready to write the next chapter in a story 10,000 years in the making. The fate of all reality hung on what would happen next, but in that moment, Sarah felt nothing but the perfect clarity of blade meeting blade, of body and mind, and spirit working in perfect harmony. The true purpose of the tournament was finally revealed. Now it was time to show the Void why humanity had been chosen as reality's last line of defense. Dance of Destiny. Reality itself seemed to bend as Sarah's first strike met the Void Hunter's blade. Where their weapons connected, space rippled like water, sending quantum cascades throughout the arena. The crystalline walls captured each resonance pattern, storing the energy in ways Sarah could now perceive. Impressive, the Void Hunter's voice echoed from everywhere at once. "You've learned to see the patterns, but seeing isn't understanding." Its counterattack came from 3 directions simultaneously, its darkness blade splitting into multiple manifestations. But Nova's edge responded to Sarah's instincts before her conscious mind could process the attack. The meteorite steel sang as it intercepted each strike, leaving trails of light that cut through the dimensional distortions. "You're wrong," Sarah replied, pressing forward. "Understanding isn't just about knowledge. It's about experience, about the wisdom that comes from dedicating yourself to mastering something completely." The arena's quantum field intensified around them as they fought. Each exchange of blows sent ripples through multiple dimensions, and Sarah began to understand why the Empire had built this place. It wasn't just an arena. It was a lens, focusing and amplifying the energies their combat released. The Void Hunter's form shifted, expanding into a writhing mass of darkness that threatened to engulf her. Your empire hasn't told you everything, human. Do you know what happened to the other worlds where these meteorites fell? Do you know what became of those who tried to master their power? Sarah felt Nova's edge pulse in response to the creature's words. Images flashed through her mind. Other worlds, other warriors, their bodies burning away as they tried to channel powers they weren't ready to control. But there was something different about these visions, something the Void Hunter didn't want her to notice. They didn't fail because they were weak, Sarah said, understanding dawning. They failed because they tried to force the power, to bend it to their will like your kind does. They didn't understand that true mastery means working with a power, not trying to dominate it. The quantum patterns along Nova's edge blazed brighter, and Sarah felt the blade's energy synchronizing with her own. Not fighting against her, not threatening to overwhelm her, but working in harmony with her movements, amplifying her technique rather than replacing it. Impossible, the Void Hunter snarled, its form condensing back into a humanoid shape. The quantum resonance should be burning you away from the inside out. How are you still standing? The answer came to Sarah in a moment of perfect clarity. Because I'm not trying to control this power. I'm letting it flow through me, just like I was taught in my first sword lessons back on Earth. The blade is an extension of the body. The body is an extension of the mind. The mind is an extension of the spirit. Keeper Thalix's voice rang out from above. The prophecy wasn't about finding someone strong enough to control the power. It was about finding someone wise enough not to try. The Void Hunter launched itself forward in a frenzy of attacks, its darkness blade leaving tears in the fabric of space itself. But Sarah moved through the onslaught with a grace that seemed to defy physics, Nova's edge leaving trails of light that sealed the dimensional rifts as quickly as they formed. Your kind has spent eons trying to break down the barriers between dimensions, Sarah said, understanding flowing through her with each movement. You never realized that the barriers aren't meant to be broken or controlled. They're meant to be maintained, balanced, protected. The quantum energy in the arena reached a fever pitch. Sarah could feel the power of every blow she'd ever struck, every form she'd ever practiced, every lesson she ever learned flowing through her. Nova's edge wasn't just a weapon anymore. It was a conduit for something far greater. Now, Commander, Thalix called out. The resonance patterns are aligned. Use the form you were born knowing, the one written into the very metal of your blade. Sarah didn't need to think. Her body moved on its own, Nova's edge tracing a pattern in space that she somehow recognized from her deepest memories. The Void Hunter lunged to stop her, but it was too late. The sword's light reached a blinding intensity as Sarah completed the form. In that moment, she understood the price Thalix had tried to warn her about. Using this power wouldn't destroy her. It would change her forever, make her something more than human but less than what the Empire had become. Remember, the Void Hunter's voice echoed as reality began to warp around them. Once you complete this ritual, there's no going back. You'll be bound to that blade for eternity, guardian of the barriers between dimensions. Is that really what you want? To give up your humanity? Sarah looked at Nova's edge, saw her reflection in its glowing surface. She thought of Earth, of all she'd be leaving behind. Then she thought of everything she'd be protecting. My humanity isn't in my form, she said softly. It's in my choices. And with that, she brought Nova's edge down in one final, perfect strike. Legacy of Stars. When the light faded and reality stabilized, the crystal spire arena had changed. The crystalline walls now pulsed with new patterns, maintaining the dimensional barriers that Sarah's final strike had reinforced. Where the Void Hunter had stood, there was only empty space, its darkness blade scattered into harmless quantum particles. But the most profound change was in Sarah herself. She stood at the arena's center, Nova's edge still held in a perfect ending stance. Her form flickered between solid and translucent, human flesh now interwoven with threads of crystalline light. The meteorite steel of her blade had transformed as well, becoming something that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional states. "It is done," Keeper Thelix announced, his voice carrying across the now silent arena. "The Void Hunters are banished, the dimensional barriers restored. Earth's champion has become what we spent 10,000 years waiting for, the first guardian of the quantum veil." Sarah lowered her blade, watching as light rippled through her transformed body. She could feel the connections now, to the arena, to the barriers between dimensions, to the very fabric of reality itself. But more importantly, she could still feel her human heart beating, her human mind thinking, her human soul choosing. "The tournament is concluded," the arena AI announced. "But this is not an ending. It is a beginning." Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy watched in awe as Sarah sheathed her blade. Many had come expecting mere entertainment, a display of martial prowess. Instead, they had witnessed the birth of a legend. "You understand now," Thelix said, approaching her, "why we chose humanity. Why all our advanced evolution, all our technological progress, actually took us further from what was needed." Sarah nodded. "You became so focused on control in reality that you forgot how to work with it. You needed someone who understood that true mastery isn't about domination. It's about harmony." The crystalline walls of the arena shifted, displaying images of Earth. But now Sarah could see her home world differently. She perceived the quantum threads that connected it to other dimensions, the delicate balance that needed to be maintained. "Earth will no longer need to fear becoming a protectorate," Thelix announced to the assembled galactic representatives. "Instead, it will take its place as the center of a new order. The Guardian Academy will be established there, where future protectors of reality will learn not just the blade arts, but the wisdom behind them." Sarah felt a moment of sadness, knowing she could never return to her old life. But then she sensed something else, the first resonances of new meteorite steel entering Earth's atmosphere, seeking those who might have the potential to follow in her path. "I can't go home," she said softly, "but I can still protect it, still teach others. You'll be able to manifest anywhere the quantum barriers need maintenance," Thelix explained. "And Earth's blade masters will learn to perceive your presence, to hear your guidance. Different, yes, but not gone." The arena began to reconfigure itself, transforming from a tournament venue into something new, a nexus point for monitoring the dimensional barriers. Sarah could feel how her presence, her very existence, helped maintain the stability of reality itself. "There will be others," she said, sensing new possibilities unfolding. "Other humans who can learn to work with these powers, not just try to control them. Each bringing their own wisdom, their own understanding." Thelix's crystalline form pulsed with approval. "The age of tournaments is over. The age of guardians begins." In the days that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. How a human with a simple metal sword had proven that true strength lies not in technological advancement or evolutionary transformation, but in the wisdom to know when to work with powers greater than oneself rather than trying to dominate them. The Crystal Spire remained, but it was no longer just an arena. It became a way station for future guardians, a place where dimensional barriers could be monitored and maintained. And sometimes, when blade students on Earth practiced their forms with particular grace, they would catch glimpses of a figure moving through quantum light, Nova's edge still at her side, protecting reality with every step of an endless dance. Sarah Chen had given up her ordinary human existence, but in doing so, she had proven humanity's greatest strength. The ability to change without losing oneself, to grow without forgetting one's roots, to become more while staying true to what matters most. And in the space between dimensions, in the quantum threads that held reality together, a transformed blade master continued her practice, each movement maintaining the balance that kept all worlds safe, not through force or dominance, but through the simple, human wisdom of working in harmony with powers greater than herself. The tournament had ended. The legacy had just begun.